Everybody to the Monthly Movie Dispatch, the movie review shows from friends that you can trust. Every week we broadcast a review of a new film, talk about some film news, and recommend what to watch. We've been talking, critiquing, and gushers all over movies. We've been munching all over movies. Since we were in high school, we aim to bring you an honest conversation on relevant cinema. I'm Nick Moffat. I'm here with Shaun Bowlby. What's up, man?
Hey, how's it going? It has been a while since I've heard you do that intro. Glad to have you back.
Yeah, I took a little break there, and my life's pretty crazy right now, so it's hard for me to be on the show all the time. But I couldn't resist being on Ghostbusters. Ghostbusters Afterlife.
Yeah, definitely.
The whole thing about Ghostbusters is, I used to joke around saying that my life could never be truly fulfilled because I couldn't actually be a Ghostbuster. Mm-hmm. With the jumpsuits and the proton packs and
the car and yeah.
I mean, I have a dream that in another world they were able to set up stations around the whole United States and maybe not have the exact cool car, but they'd have the same look. Mm-hmm. And, I'd be able to be like one of those ghost busting janitors that they kind of are. They just get so dirty and they're just the working class people trying to bust those ghosts.
Definitely.
Anyway, so yeah, I love Ghostbusters. I don't know how much we've talked about this, but Ghostbusters, is my quick point to as my all-time favorite movie. Mm-hmm. So,
yep.
To me, it's the ultimate comfort movie for me, and I'm excited to talk about this new one with you.
Yeah, for sure. Also a big fan, and we'll kind of get into the rest of them from what I understand.
Yeah, so well. as our opening topic, I think we're just going to go over kind of the Ghostbusters as a franchise. And I don't mean to catch you off guard with this question, but I do have an opening question that I didn't put in the show notes. Do you have a favorite Ghostbuster from the original series or otherwise?
Oh, man. I mean, I guess Bill Murray. That's kind of an easy answer. I feel like that would be a lot of people's favorite. But yeah, Dan Aykroyd is also, I love Dan Aykroyd's like kind of kooky, crazy, take on the Ghostbusters team, so he's a ton of fun, but I would probably have to go with Bill Murray.
Peter Venkman.
Peter Venkman. To be clear. I'm not a big enough fan to know all their names off the top of my head, but
blasphemy.
Yeah.
I'm at a place in my life where Peter Venkman might actually be my least favorite Ghostbuster.
Oh wow.
I mean, he's great. I love Peter. I actually have his pop toy right here, with the marshmallow all over him.
Yep.
But yeah, my favorite's definitely Ray Stantz. He's just so passionate about being a Ghostbuster. He loves doing it so much. He's like a little kid, just so enthusiastic about busting those ghosts. And big fan of Egon. Egon might be my number 2, just because he's just Harold Ramis. He's just so smart about it. He's got this really dry sense of humor. He also is really passionate about ghosts too, but he doesn't really exhibit emotions the same way most humans do. And I'm also, huge fan of Winston. The thing about Winston is that, he doesn't have many lines in the movies, but every single line he has is gold. Mm-hmm. Every single line, If it's got a steady paycheck in it, I'll believe anything you say. Stuff like that,
Yeah.
No offense.
Kind of the no nonsense character for everyone to really bounce their personalities off of, I think.
Yeah, I mean, I think he's like the blue collar, true blue collar worker. The other guys, they're scientists, they have PhDs, they're scholars in their own, ways. But he's just, trying to get a job, trying to make some money, trying to support his family. So, real quick, I kind of want to talk about the series a little bit. Because it's a weird franchise. The original Ghostbusters came out in 1984. It had it had a budget of about 30 million, but then it became a huge box office success and ultimately like a classic. You know, I think in the science fiction comedy genre, it's an all-timer. You know, and I wrote down some of the stats on these movies, but really, I think it most compares to Men in Black, where the first one was such a lightning in the bottle. You know, you had this perfect cast, this perfect screenplay, hardly any misses. You know, hardly any mistakes in the movie, and just it. I think both of those movies are kind of perfect, and none of the sequels came close to living up to the original in terms of quality and box office. I don't have the Men in Black numbers in front of me, but you know, it's like that's another franchise that kept trying to start over and you know, didn't really get off the ground. And I think the sequels for Ghostbusters are kind of the same way. You know, Ghostbusters 2 with the original cast came out in 1989, and you know, it wasn't very well received. You know, I think there were some problems with that movie right from the beginning. Just the fact that it was 5 years later. You know, personally, I have a problem with a movie when the very first thing you see is 5 years later, and it's like, yeah, these guys have been unemployed for 5 years. They haven't really done much at all, and it just kind of, you know, set the stage of like, okay, we have to get back into it and fight off a new baddie. When I don't know, just the tone was off right from the start.
Yeah,
and the movie wasn't received as well. I've got some love for it, but overall, I think that a lot of people aren't that into it. What about you? You fan of the second one?
I totally agree. I'm not really a fan of the second one. I think, yeah, it was trying to recapture the magic, and it just it failed. Not a very interesting story. It kind of missed on a lot of the funness and the comedy, and yeah, just
oh man, I do think I did think it had a lot of fun parts in it. You know, I really like a lot of the slime, the river of slime. Vigo, the Carpathian, I actually thought was a pretty like scary dude, and then Janish, the guy that he kind of possesses and takes over, I thought was such a hilarious character. He's got this like thick Eastern European accent. There's a scene where they're like, "Where are you from?" And he's like, "The Upper West Side." You know, he's just but yeah, overall not nearly as successful as the first one. I did want to bring up a funny bit though that's in the second one. So the director of the first movies is Ivan Reitman. He came back and produced the newest movie, Ghostbusters Afterlife, and his son Jason Reitman directed Ghostbusters Afterlife. So there's a scene though in the beginning of Ghostbusters 2 where they're performing at birthday parties. It's Ray and Winston performing at a birthday party, and this kid, you know, this teenager comes up to him and goes, "You know, my dad says you guys are full of crap." And they're like, "Well, not everyone believes in the paranormal." Like, no, he just says you guys are full of crap. And that kid was Jason Reitman.
Oh, really?
Yeah, as a teenager. And you know, his dad is the director of the movie.
Yeah.
Full of crap. LOL, ha ha ha. But anyway. So then Ghostbusters Answer the Call comes out in 2016. It actually wasn't originally called Ghostbusters Answer the Call. I think it was just called Ghostbusters, but they kind of added the Answer the Call later on. That was the movie that was directed by Paul Feig, starring Melissa McCarthy, Kristen Wiig, Leslie Jones, Kate McKinnon, the Chick Busters, Women Busters, whatever, 4 women as Ghostbusters. And this one was pretty controversial. You know, the trailer came out. It became one of the least liked things on YouTube. And people were very, very upset about it. And to this day, I'm still not sure why people were so upset about it. Especially, like, sure, maybe it was a bad trailer. I remember seeing the trailer and thinking, like, it seems like there's a lot of CGI, and I don't love the way the CGI looks, but sure, whatever, you know. But I remember there was a lot of like they're gonna ruin our childhood, like
Yeah.
kind of conversations between fanboys. And I mean, honestly, like for me as a huge Ghostbusters fan, I'm more inclined to feel like fanboys being toxic to people that just want to enjoy themselves will ruin my childhood more than
Hmm.
a movie that was good or bad or whatever,
Yeah,
you know?
definitely.
Because ultimately that's how I felt about Ghostbusters 2016. I don't know about you, but
Uh,
like I thought it was fine. I didn't think it was a terrible movie. I actually thought it was pretty funny. Like the
hmm.
cast, especially Leslie Jones, was like very, very funny.
Hmm.
And I just again, it was like it's like I called it with the trailer. Like I wasn't a fan of the CGI in it. Like I just
Yeah.
didn't really like the look of the movie. It looked very cartoony.
Hmm.
Like it looked like a roller coaster. Like the climax was like them in New York, and it felt like it was one of those rides where you might
Yeah.
have the gun and you're like trying to shoot the ghosts.
Uh-huh.
It just I don't know. I just
And you're in the
it
cart
looked
and it's like
three.
bouncing around and yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and that's what the climax of the movie felt like, and I
Uh-huh.
just was not into that whole look or style of the movie. And
Yeah.
I mean, I think that was reflected in the budget of that movie was $144 million.
Yeah.
That's crazy.
Yeah,
That's a
for kind of a
crazy
light
budget.
little SNL kind of paranormal movie. That's pretty
Yeah, I mean,
crazy. That is crazy.
yeah, and that's the thing is that like, Ghostbusters I don't think ever really supposed to be this like Marvel-esque,
Hmm.
save the world kind of showdown, I
Yeah.
mean, yeah, there is a big bad at the end of the first one. And they do save the world, but
Hmm.
it's not like a CGI, bolt from the sky where they're,
Yeah,
teaming
definitely.
up to have an action scene. That if you go back and watch that original scene from the first one, it's still littered with jokes,
Hmm.
and it's pretty much just four guys standing there crossing the streams.
Uh-huh.
That's all the action in that scene. So
Yeah.
I think that style was kind of misguided, and I think that's partly why it failed. But then
Hmm.
also the controversy.
Yeah. I mean, you've been talking about it for a while. I actually haven't seen the movie. And really for no reason other than I just kind of missed it. And generally it was getting like, even looking past all the, controversy online, it was even the people who seemed pretty level-headed about it were giving it pretty mediocre, had a mediocre response to it. And so I really just kind of missed it. I do kind of vaguely want to go back and try and see it, but yeah. I missed that movie. I really, and I just watching the trailer, I do agree. It just like it didn't look super great, but I like all those actresses, and I thought the movie looked like it would be pretty funny from the trailer. So yeah.
Yeah, and I mean, I thought the humor was the strongest part of that movie.
Hmm.
So, I've been meaning to rewatch it. I think I've only seen it a couple times, so
Hmm.
I would like to rewatch it. But I ultimately think another big problem with the movie was that they rebooted it. Like
Hmm.
it was a weird thing where it didn't take place in the same world as the other two, but
Yeah.
it could have. There was
Uh huh.
room for it to be in the same universe, and I think
Yeah.
that was another thing that could have been more. It probably would have been more received, even with that cast,
Hmm.
um, if they were just kind of piggyback off of what was already there and the mythology of it,
Yeah.
like the new one did.
Yeah. Definitely.
Um, so that being said, I think we can move on to the newest one.
Hmm.
All that being said, too, it's like this franchise is kind of like there's been three movies. This is the fourth one.
Uh huh.
It to me, it's like it almost is like barely a franchise in some
Yeah.
ways.
That's true.
It's it's a concept that I feel like could have had a bunch of movies. There could have been a bunch of tales about these guys going ghost to ghost,
Hmm. Yeah.
and fighting.
TV series and a bunch of movies and spin-offs and yeah.
Well, there has been a few animated
Yeah,
series
that's
that
true.
I've
And
liked.
I actually think that was my first introduction to Ghostbusters was the TV series, the animated series.
The real Ghostbusters.
Is that what it's called? I don't even
Yeah.
remember. But yeah.
Yeah.
I remember watching that Saturday morning cartoons and thinking they were super cool.
Totally.
And later came back and saw the movie.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But it's just kind of funny looking at it, being like, huh, the movie franchise was kind of just like dead until 2016.
Yeah,
and
definitely.
then it came back with this huge controversy and this mixed movie, and then this movie, Ghostbusters, new one, what's it called? Afterlife. It's kind of like giving it back to the fans, which is kind of weird because the fans were so toxic during 2016. Yeah. But it really was, kind of a family affair. Jason Reitman, Ivan Reitman's son, is directing it, and he was like, "My dad showed me the ropes. He's the producer, and we're gonna come back and get the tone, get the proper sequel element on." So,
I have something to say about that.
Yeah, no, for sure. I'm sure you do.
Yeah.
I think there's probably a lot of mixed with this. Anyway, that's how I'm feeling about it. Anyway, so let me real quick set the table for this. Ghostbusters Afterlife stars Finn Wolfhard, McKenna Grace, Paul Rudd, Carrie Coon. Plot description: when a single mom and her 2 kids arrive in a small town, they begin to discover their connection to the original Ghostbusters and the secret legacy their grandfather left behind. This movie's in theaters right now. You can see it all over the place. Shaun, I feel like I've been talking for a while.
Yeah, this is like your franchise, so I'm like, I really like the first one, and I'm kind of lukewarm on the second one and haven't seen the third one, so I was just kind of letting you go.
Yeah. Well, so I mean, let's get a little dialogue back and forth on this part. But I can start us off really quick. I picked this movie because obviously it's a legacy sequel to my all-time favorite movie. And my initial thoughts were pretty mixed. I enjoyed myself. Okay. I enjoyed the movie overall. I actually loved the first half of it. The movie starts with I don't know if this is a spoiler, I guess kind of is, but it takes place in like the Midwest on this old farm in this quiet town, and I think a lot of the first half of the movie is pretty slow. It's a lot of kind of slowly putting pieces together. The main character is played by McKenna Grace. Her name is what's her name? Is it Leslie? No, it's Phoebe. It's Phoebe. Phoebe is like a nerdy kid, and she just like wants to, I don't know, get through and learn some science. Like, she's really into science. Her older brother is played by Finn Wolfhard, who's in Stranger Things, I think.
Yep. And It.
And It. Carrie Coon is their mom, and Paul Rudd is their teacher. So I liked a lot of the setup, and I liked how much time it took. Basically, the concept, it's a spoiler, but it's not a big spoiler. I think it's generally been put together at this point that, like, Egon is the guy who in the farm. Egon, he's Carrie Coon's mom, Carrie Coon's dad, and McKenna Grace's grandfather. He set up this farm at some point, and he's doing something in the dirt. Everyone calls him Dirt Farmer because he's doing something in the dirt, but he kind of keeps to himself.
He doesn't produce any crops. He's working on the farm constantly and doing something, but no one in the town knows what he's doing. But he doesn't produce any crops, so he's not really a farmer. So they call him the Dirt Farmer.
Yeah. So I actually liked a lot of the setup, though, because it was doing its own thing. It gave McKenna Grace time to become her character. I thought she was excellent in this movie. I thought that she really carried a lot, just a lot of plot. She kept telling these really bad science jokes that were hilarious.
Yeah.
She just then they find a trap, like a ghost trap, and Paul Rudd's like, oh wow, like it's in the trailer. He's like, oh wow, nice replica, but it's really a ghost trap. And which leads to them like opening it. And that was another thing. I loved how into science Paul Rudd was, and how I think he says something about how science is punk rock. And
Yeah,
that was
definitely.
pretty cool before they jumpstart the trap and make it open.
Yeah.
So, I liked a lot of the setup and a lot of the groundwork that was played. She makes a friend, this kid who calls himself Podcast, who's just making a podcast constantly, which, I like. I think that's a pretty good joke.
Yeah. Yeah, I definitely think that works pretty well throughout the movie. He's just he's just kind of always there with his little bag, tote bag, and microphone and everything, and yeah, it was pretty good.
Yeah. So, yeah, but the movie is like handcuffed to being a tribute to the first movie, and I thought some of the references worked. Some of them kind of like fit into the story nicely. And some of them were hit and miss. Like some of them were okay. And I thought some of them were very terrible. And I felt like a lot of the references to the first movie picked up. It almost like picked up steam until like we got to the climax, which felt very much just like cut and paste from the original movie.
Yeah.
Which we could talk about more in spoilers. I'd love to talk about the climax more in spoilers, but I kind of want to get your take on some of these references, because it was anywhere from like the exact same score was used throughout the movie. What did you think about some of these things?
Well, so I mean, I guess I'd say first of all, I do kind of agree. I actually really enjoyed the movie. Maybe it seems like I liked the movie maybe even a little bit more than you for the first half of it.
What do you mean? I keep just saying that I love the first half. I've said that like 5 times.
Oh, I thought, all right. I'm just like, I'm kind of like excited to talk about the first half.
Me too. I thought the first half was like really great.
I thought it was like really legitimately strong. I thought like the characters and the setup was really great. I thought the building of that mystery with the grandfather and what he was doing at the farm and everything was really great. I was like super into it. I loved Paul Rudd's character. And like you said, Podcast. I really liked the two kids and how they went off and paired up with their kind of friends. Like there was Podcast, and then the Trevor Finn Wolfhard's character paired up with a girl named Lucky. Just a local, she's flipping burgers at the local burger joint. And like, I really liked their chemistry. I really liked that kind of little, crush that they kind of set up in that little story. I really love like Paul Rudd, as the summer school teacher who's, coming in during summer vacation and trying to teach a bunch of kids who like he clearly doesn't really care much about. So he's just showing them like 1980s horror films.
He finds like Cujo on VHS.
Yeah.
And
it's like, what did he say? It's like Beethoven, but if Beethoven was mauling a bunch of children.
Right. And, I loved his character too, because like I feel like I know that teacher, who's like phoning it in with the kids, but then also he cares passionately about science or whatever his subject is. He's like, well, the kids don't care about my seismograph activity, so I'm going to show them Cujo.
Yeah.
But he's in the other room actually doing work. I don't know. It's a funny character trait.
Yeah. And like I even really liked all the kind of slow, subtle reveals of the Ghostbusters kind of iconography. The little hint of the car as what was it, as he's like, he pulls the thing off the car and then the light goes out really quick.
Yeah.
And like the little subtle things were really good. I love
See,
the
those kind of
ghost
things
trap.
worked for me. Yeah, like I loved like those sort of references, how they revealed those were perfect. Like that's
Yeah.
how you should do a Legacy Suite sequel, where like we all want to see the car, we want to see the trap. They're going to be in the movie, so reveal them in a natural way. That's slow and works.
Definitely.
Glad you said that.
And I also have some problems with it overall. I think maybe the pacing's a little off, and I think I think the way that the story reveals itself and unfolds is a little maybe awkward or slow. I can't quite put my finger on it, but I did have some other problems with it. But I will say, like, there is one specific scene that really almost completely lost me in the movie, and it's the Walmart scene, which I think is probably what you're talking about when they are trying to play the nostalgia card and they take it way too far, and it really, really does not work. I won't get into exactly what they do, but it's like that scene, like I was utterly shocked by that scene, and it felt so out of place, and I was very confused by it. And,
yeah, I had seen most of that scene already in like a trailer or something.
Oh, okay. Yeah, and I guess I missed most trailers and stuff. So
I actually kind of liked a little, like I kind of liked the cute little marshmallows.
No.
I thought they were pretty funny, and I still do think they're pretty funny. But I could see why someone wouldn't like that.
Well,
like,
I thought that's exactly what you're talking about, where bringing back something from the original that doesn't work. And I think that because like the worst part about it is not only is it like so over the top and overt of a callback to the first one, but it actually doesn't make any sense at all.
Totally agree. Totally agree. Like the only reason the Stay Puft Marshmallow Man showed up in the first movie was because Ray thought about him.
Yeah,
it has actually nothing to do with Zool or Gozer or anything ghost related.
It just like for some reason it was stuck in his head and it popped in there at the wrong time. And,
right. So why were these little marshmallows showing up? Why were these little Stay Puft Marshmallow Men showing up? At all, like it just doesn't make sense. It would be like Slimer showing up, which like spoiler, Slimer doesn't show up, which I think is good. They had this other guy Muncher who
kind of looked like Slimer, but
was very much like Slimer, but I liked Muncher, like and so I mean, when I say I liked the Marshmallow Man, I just thought that was like, I thought they were cute, and I thought it was like a funny. Yeah,
I mean, I get why they put it in there. They're cute, and like, I guess
there's a bunch of examples like that, and worse though as well. Like, really? And I think that Walmart scene though, to me, was like, I don't want to say that scene ruined the movie for me necessarily, but like that was kind of the breaking point. Like, I think at that point, the references became like. Completely intertwined with everything that was happening, and that's when the movie kind of like derailed a little bit.
So maybe we should get into it in spoilers, but I'm actually a little I'm a little confused because I didn't think anything was too over the top until that point in the movie. So I'm curious to hear what you didn't like beforehand.
Well, I mean, I can tell you a few things, but that aren't spoiler related really quick. Like, like I mentioned the soundtrack before, it was literally the exact same soundtrack, which like is kind of weird. Like I feel like usually there's like a variation of it. I mean, I know they varied it, they changed it a little bit, but it was pretty closely identical. And like it kind of took me out of the movie a little bit. There was a lot of dialogue that was recycled. And really? Not in a like not in a like recycled sort, not in a like, it was purposeful, like it was purposely recycled as like a wink to the audience, but it was used in context, like in totally different context.
I guess the who you gonna call line,
who you gonna call, that like that was a big one where like it like panned up and it was like just a cop saying who you gonna call, and it was just like All right. There's another one where they were going to get Muncher. They were trying to get Muncher, and well, what do we do now? Get her. That was like, and that's from the first movie. Like the get her. Rawr! That's like, and there's a bunch of other examples. Those are the only two I could think of off the top of my head, but.
I guess I have to admit it's probably been too long since I've seen the original. So
I've seen the original more than any other movie I've ever seen. You know, so it's kind of that thing where if a line is said, it's like, oh, I've heard that before. That brings me back. And I know some people probably like that, but the dialogue is what drove me crazy.
Okay, yeah, I actually, aside from who you're gonna call, I don't think I really noticed anything. I did notice the what did you say? Get her. I noticed that was kind of delivered weirdly, and it kind of didn't make any sense. I didn't understand why they said that like that. So I guess that kind of stood out to me, but I didn't actually remember that was from the original. So
yeah, I wish I could pull more examples if I had seen it.
Yeah, no,
if I'd seen it before. You know, I just think there was a bunch of examples that were similar to that, and that were like subtle, you know, if you weren't like a diehard, but you know, I'm a diehard, and it took me out of the movie a little bit just because I'm like, to me, it's like those unnecessary sort of references. You know, we're already watching a legacy sequel that's going to have the car in it. It's going to have, you know, the traps. It's going to have all of that stuff. And I mean, honestly, this was another thing I was going to bring up was that I really loved how everything looked. You know, I was complaining earlier about how the color and the CGI I just wasn't a fan of the cartoony look in Answer the Call. But I really liked the gritty, sort of realistic style that that the car and the proton pack and the traps like they had.
Yeah, definitely.
And I also really liked the like additions that they made. Like the car had the gunner seat, and I thought that was like really cool.
Yeah.
You know,
RC car.
RC car trap. You know, that was really cool too. And it just feels like, you know, when you have all this stuff to work with already, why overexpose it? And that's kind of how it felt.
Yeah,
I
would definitely agree with that, especially with some of the things that happen later on in the movie, and that Walmart scene. But actually, one thing I did want to talk about is there's a lot of talk around this movie, especially from Jason Reitman, about how this was like getting back to the roots of the franchise, and you know, this one's for the fans, and it's you know, this is the true Ghostbusters sequel. And I've got to say, I don't know that this movie shares a ton of DNA with like the original. Like the original is like a New York, you know, SNL movie where with these, you know, great comedic SNL actors, kind of palling around and joking around and you know,
very sarcastic.
Yeah, sarcastic, and they, you know, they're just kind of trying to make a living with this like crazy ghost technology stuff that they invented, and they end up like getting into finding themselves where they need to save the world from this supernatural being. But it was kind of like that a New York SNL.
Yeah, I mean,
type movie.
I would agree completely. Like the first one is 1000% a New York City movie. Like I think the last line of true dialogue in the movie is, "I love this town." You know, it's such a New York movie. And yeah, the new one, Afterlife, it's not a comedy. Like, sure, there's some giggles in it, but it's mostly it's not a comedy.
It's more of like a family adventure movie, kind of more in the vein of like Steven Spielberg or like J.J. Abrams,
or something.
like E.T. or like a Super 8 type feel to it, which I really liked, and I like that they kind of went in a different direction with this movie. So I don't know. I don't know exactly the point that I'm trying to make with that, but I did want to just kind of point out that if you wanted to like say that there was a movie that was more in tune with like what the original was doing, I would say that 2016 Ghostbusters was much closer to, maybe what the original was doing. Would you agree with that? I actually haven't.
Much closer. Yeah, I don't think that's fair to say because the first 2016 was a comedy at least, and it took place in New York City. But I think tonally it was very different, and I don't know.
It was kind of about these four characters palling around and like, weren't they? I mean, I didn't see the movie, but it probably, even like the plot probably was much more similar, right? Like just a group of four people, like, I don't know.
Yeah,
but it's just like this movie feels like it's a very different direction for the franchise. It feels like.
I agree, and here's the thing: like I think what Ivan and Jason or whoever was saying number one, I kind of feel like it was just like a marketing thing, like
I totally
try to
agree
get past the controversy.
Like,
but number two, I think more or less he was talking about the look, the proton packs, the jumpsuits, the traps, like everything being the original ones.
Okay.
Which, like I said earlier, the 2016 one could have used all of that stuff. They just chose not to for whatever reason. But then I also think what he might have meant by saying that it's closer for the fans or whatever that means. To me, at the end of the day, I felt like this movie was a big tribute to Harold Ramis, which we can talk about more in spoilers. But I think that was like the heart that they were going for was, these are the originals, the original everything, the original concept, the original team, the originals. And we are paying tribute to our original guy who's not here anymore.
Yeah.
That was the kind of vibe. And I don't know, that's kind of what I was thinking when, with that.
Yeah. Nice. Well, I could jump into spoilers.
All right, let's jump into spoilers. Yeah. Let's do it. So after this point, we're going to be talking about spoilers. Spoilers. Okay. So, Shaun. I mean, I basically thought after the Walmart scene, it became like beat by beat, like the first movie. Like it was like the demon dogs came out, Zool and Vince Clortho. They possessed Paul Rudd and Carrie Coon, which was weird. Why it was Paul Rudd and Carrie Coon? Like why? It's kind of the same thing that you were saying earlier about why Stay Puffed. Why? Like at least in the first movie, Sigourney Weaver and Rick Moranis, they lived in the building.
Yeah.
I
small town, maybe.
I don't know. Sure, but
yeah, there's a lot of other people at that Walmart.
Sure, yeah, that's kind of what I mean. I don't know. Yeah. Just and then I liked the plot of the movie. I liked how I think all of it made sense for Egon's character to be like, Gozer is going to come back, and I figured out that there's like this other place in the Midwest where it might come back, so I'm gonna move out there and try to stop it. Like that to me totally works. What doesn't totally work is when they actually go into the mine and it literally looks exactly the same as the top of the building in the first movie.
Yeah.
And then the dogs sit exactly the same way. And then Gozer comes out and it looks like Gozer from the first movie, which also, like, I don't know if you remember, but in the first movie, Vince Clortho, when he had taken over Rick Moranis' character, was going on about how Gozer can come in different forms and how in a different era he came out as a giant slore, which is a huge worm slug-like creature that like engulfs people in flames. And it just like they went down there and there's a huge statue of Gozer that looks like I don't know, looks like
Looks
how
exactly the
Gozer
same, yeah.
look, you know, and it wasn't just the fact that it was like all that it was that these things were happening. It was also just that it looked exactly the same, and it
Yeah.
felt like there was a lot of that in the back end of the movie into the climax.
Yeah, I definitely felt that this movie was a little bit hampered by. Oops, I shouldn't have done that. God damn it. Sorry, Nick. You back? Did I lose
I'm
you?
here. I hear you, but I don't see you.
All right, good. That's what I was trying to do. I think I actually just accidentally disconnected from the phone call. But yeah, video was a little was getting a little twitchy because Kelly just started on the phone. So
Cool.
yeah. So we're all good. Gonna keep going. So yeah, I definitely think this movie was a little bit hampered by the choice to just kind of redo the original story, like, you know, from the first movie. I think it would have been a lot more interesting and would have freed up the movie in a lot of ways if they had just decided to do a different, like, there's a different you know, a different monster, a different ghost god thing that they have to fight. Why couldn't
there just been a different demigod that was going to come out in 2020 or whatever?
Wait, was that?
I didn't have to be Gozer.
Yeah,
you know,
exactly. And I think it would have made it a heck of a lot more interesting and more like surprising because, you know, at some point you I guess you pretty quickly understand that that it is Gozer and that that you kind of already know where everything's going. Yeah. And you I don't know, like you're just at some point you're just not surprised by the story as it progresses. Once they start, you know, possessing the bodies and doing their thing, it's just like, yeah, I think that was
you can tell that you could tell exactly where it's going. Mm-hmm. I agree completely. Like, you know exactly where it's going, and you know it's going to be a big showdown, whatever, and they're going to stop it, whatever. And I also would say that you can feel that the original Ghostbusters are going to come back, you know. And I would also say that when they actually do come back, it's shot in a really weird way. Like, I feel like they kind of come out of the shadows, and it's kind of hard to tell that's them at first. I mean, you know it's them, but I just thought that moment was kind of like undercut by the way it was shot.
Yeah, I mean, I hate to like make assumptions about things, but it did kind of feel like almost like, all right, we got these 3 guys for this one day, and we're going to get them in here and we're going to shoot all their stuff, all their coverage. And then we're going to let them go because maybe they couldn't afford to do more, or maybe they,
Bill Murray only wanted to do one day or something.
Yeah. Or maybe scheduling it just was, you know, a problem to get them all there or something. But I totally agree. It looked strange. It didn't really, the look of it didn't fit in to the rest of the movie, and even like the rest of the stuff that they were cutting in and out of around their shots. And yeah, that was another thing. Like, I didn't absolutely hate it when they came in, but it definitely felt shoehorned and unnecessary. And what are your thoughts on that?
Well, I first of all, when Phoebe initially calls Ray, I actually thought that was pretty cool. I thought it wasn't perfect. I thought it was weird that she didn't tell him initially that she was told them that, told her a bunch of information. Like, that was, it just was written in a way that was like, why is Ray just like saying these things to a stranger over the phone right now? But the things that he was saying, I actually thought were pretty cool. Like the background that they gave on the Ghostbusters, the reasoning for what happened to them over the years and the falling out. I thought all of that was really great. And, I loved that he still had his occult bookstore. And, so like I said, when when they showed up at the end, obviously as a huge fan, I was like happy to see them, but very quickly, like I said, I didn't really love how they were introduced. I didn't love how they walked up, and I didn't think it was earned. I didn't think that they were looking and going for like an emotional payoff, and I didn't think it was earned. I've seen a lot of people compare this movie to The Force Awakens because recycled plot points and leaning on character, nostalgic characters and stuff, legendary characters. But I think the big difference between this and The Force Awakens is that the emotions that happen at the end of Force Awakens, with Han dying, I think that was totally earned, and it worked for me. Whereas this, it was like, oh, okay, they showed up, interesting,
cool.
And I also like that. Also had like it was again repeating stuff from the other movie, like Gozer the Gazarian, like all like that whole joke that Rey had, and then are you a god? Yes, it just it was a little much. It was a little much. So yeah, I wasn't super into it. And then the ghost of Egon shows up and helps them out cross the streams. That was the other weird thing, is that they like cross the streams so like casually. In the first one, they were like, we're gonna cross streams and might kill us. And I got the sense that like that was like, they were lucky it didn't kill them. And then this time they were just like, let's cross them again, and uncross them. And it was like, I just don't know. I don't know.
Yeah.
Anyway, so I didn't think that. I didn't cry. For example, like I've heard other people crying seeing them together, and the Egon farewell was nice, but I'm also not like super into like CGI like hologram type stuff.
Yeah.
So I don't know if I really needed that.
That one didn't look particularly good either.
Yeah, I mean,
not that
like
any of
ghost.
them. Yeah, not that any of them really look all that good, but that one I felt like wasn't even as good as some other ones that we've seen.
Yeah. So I wasn't super into it. I did love the post credit scene. Did you stay through the credits?
I caught the Sigourney Weaver scene. Was there another one?
There's another one, and that one actually hit me emotionally.
Okay.
So I don't know if we want to talk about that right now or if we come back to it, but I would love to tell you about it.
Yeah, I'll hear it. I don't mind.
So after all the credits end, it cuts back to what seemed to be a deleted scene from the first movie. And it was Annie Potts as Janine and Harold Ramis as Egon before he went up into the building at the end of the movie. And she was giving him a coin, and she was going, take this coin, it's my lucky coin. And he's going, I don't know, I might not come back. You might not want to give this to me because I might not come back. And she was like, I have another one at home. And it was a nice moment. It was the lead scene. Like it was clearly them when they were, in 1984. And that was nice seeing that. But then it cut to, again, Janine sitting there with the coin, and she's in some sort of office. And then Winston came in, and, this is Ernie Hudson. He's, and they had already established earlier that Ernie Hudson, Winston had made a fortune. He had turned his Ghostbusters money into, some sort of like Wall Street capital or something. Yeah. And so then they had a little sit down meeting about how he would he gave this like speech about how grateful he was to be a Ghostbuster, and how when he first started, he was just trying to make some money, and he was able to turn that into this big career outside of being a Ghostbuster, but he was able to use that as a stepping stone to take care of his family and turn his life into something worthwhile. And he kind of said something like he'll always be a Ghostbuster at his heart. And then there was footage of him going back to the firehouse and pulling the Ecto-1 car into the firehouse lot. And to me that was emotional, and that was earned. Like that had set up they had already talked about how Winston, he made some money, and that to me was like, the right kind of nostalgia where it's
Yeah.
talking about your personal history and how you move on from your personal history, but that's still part of you.
Mm-hmm.
And to me, that sentiment can be a very powerful emotion.
Yeah.
And I loved seeing that. And honestly, it made me feel like there could be a sequel to this movie that could be really interesting. They
Mm-hmm.
could, now that they have this movie out of their system with all the nostalgia, with all the references, with Gozer and Zool and stuff, it feels like if they wanted to, they could now make a sequel that could be anything.
Yeah.
This could be the Last Jedi of
Uh-huh.
Ghostbusters movies.
Yeah.
Which I would love, but
Uh-huh.
what I mean. Like Last
Yeah.
Jedi was like weird. It was off the rails. It was doing something totally different, and
Mm-hmm.
like that's kind of what I mean. Is that just seeing them go back to the firehouse, it was like, I wonder if they're thinking about making a sequel where it's in
Yeah.
the city and it is like a new crew sort of
Mm-hmm.
thing.
Yeah. I wonder
That's
what
not
that
so
would look
tied
like.
to 'em.
Um, there's a lot of directions you could go with that in kind of this new age, but yeah, I mean, it seems like the movie's doing pretty well. So
Yeah,
yeah,
especially
maybe.
for COVID times, made like
Mhm.
45 million over the weekend or
Yeah,
something. So
I think it had
which is pretty good
its
for COVID
budget
times.
was like, I think it was like 75 million, so it was a significantly lower budget than even the 2016 movie.
Yeah, I mean, just there was a lot less CGI.
Hmm.
There was a lot less
Yeah,
high cost and stuff.
yeah.
But so yeah, I really love that. So I don't know. So I just want to tell you about that because that to me was, that was the right kind of nostalgia that like, seeing the guys, um, like I said, Ray's my favorite Ghostbusters. So seeing
Hmm.
him on the phone talking about what happened, that was emotional to me. Seeing them come back and recreate stuff, that was more like, okay, this kind of feels like
Hmm.
that scene in Ghostbusters 2 when they're doing birthday parties,
Yeah.
you know?
Uh-huh,
And then
definitely.
but then seeing Winston as a successful financial businessman,
Uh-huh.
and but still keeping the firehouse open, like
Uh-huh.
I was like, that's emotional, like
Yeah,
that's cool. So
definitely. Yeah. I do agree. I don't think that final scene particularly earned it. And I wish there had been, because I do think they did a pretty good job of like the mother character, and establishing her relationship with her father, and then kind of throughout the movie giving him kind of a reason for what he did, and even kind of knowing his character from the originals, and then at the end I almost wish that big moment where he kind of leaves and floats off, I guess, had more to do with that family than with the Ghostbusters. Um, if that makes it, I guess, like it, for a fan, I can see where it would be more meaningful for the Ghostbusters, but I think for this movie, it felt a little bit hollow to just bring back the three other Ghostbusters in the final scene um, and expect that to be like an emotional payoff at the end of the film. Um,
yeah.
so
See, I don't think they did a very good job with Carrie Coon, like at all. Honestly, that's how I felt about it,
yeah,
and that like I mean, I hear what you're saying, and I think that would have been better.
uh,
I think I think a lot of, I just think like Carrie Coon barely knew her dad.
mm-hmm.
Like Egon, like she barely knew who he was, and they didn't even mention like who her mom was either, and maybe she's nobody or whatever, but it just
Yeah, that's true.
that whole it just I don't know. I felt like Carrie Coon didn't really have a lot to do in the movie. She just
Mm-hmm.
was like, I don't like science because I didn't know my dad,
Uh-huh.
and then there's like
Yeah.
supposed to be like an emotional payoff at the end, and
Mm-hmm.
I just did
Yeah.
the Carrie Coon didn't
Well,
really work for me, and
that's
I
true.
was disappointed.
I yeah, I guess I think that if they had made it more about the family, it could have been a more fulfilling emotional payoff, because I do think they set up pretty well I don't know, just her relationship with her father, and like,
Yeah.
and like that. There's that scene where she says something along the lines of, well, he was either crazy or he was an asshole, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Um,
Yeah. And he
and
wasn't crazy or whatever, I think Phoebe says. And that's the thing, is like, I felt like Phoebe was the one who got it. Like, Phoebe was the one who was like, he was doing something important, actually, and she was the one who understood her grandfather better than anyone.
Yeah.
But also, she never met him either, so...
Yeah, and I don't know exactly how you balance that with what they set up. But it just, I guess, what you ended up with was kind of hollow and not very emotionally impactful. And I don't know how you do it correctly or where it is more emotionally impactful, but you know.
Yeah, and like, I think that like they could have, I don't know, it's like this weird thing where, like, as a filmmaker, like, as like Ivan Reitman and, you know, Dan Aykroyd, like, doing this big moment for Egon is basically doing a big moment for Harold Ramis. And that's like, that was probably really nice for them, you know, to be able to give him such a obvious tribute and send-off, you know. But in terms of it being in the movie, it just was like, okay, this is like, it just kind of felt like, I don't know, going through the motions a little bit.
I guess, like, as an example, to compare it to like Fast and the Furious with Paul Walker, where that was so, and you know, they're two completely different movies, and I don't know exactly how you do this in the Ghostbusters, but how that was so seamlessly intertwined, that farewell was so seamlessly intertwined with the story and his character arc, that it worked really well on pretty much every level that they were going for, you know, thematically with his character, with the story, and as a send-off for Paul Walker. It, you know, it just nailed it. Whereas this movie,
super emotional,
it hit maybe on one of those things.
Well, so for me, I think the whole thing would have been probably better if they just hadn't used the whole ghost, like, hologram like look of it, you know, like if it was just kind of like, I think Egon was here helping us.
Yeah.
Like, I think that might have been more emotional for me. You know, if the hint of him being there could have been more. And also, it's kind of a weird thing because Ghostbusters never like really deals with the afterlife, or like why ghosts are ghosts, or like, you know, if trapping is like a inhumane thing to do, or like if there is a heaven or hell. Like, Ghostbusters doesn't really deal with that kind of stuff.
Do they even really talk about ghosts are humans? Like, are dead humans?
Yeah, they do.
Haven't passed off.
Sometimes they do. Yeah, I mean, sometimes they aren't, I think, but sometimes they are. You know, I think ghosts typically are. I think they're aware that they're humans, but then, you know, like Gozer and other stuff are like demigods, and you could read about those ones in, you know, the Tobin Spirit Guide and stuff. But you know, like in Ghostbusters 2, like the Scoleri brothers come out at the courtyard. You know, it's like those are people who, you know, were tried for murder, and so yeah, I don't know. It's like kind of a weird thing to have him like zip off into the afterlife or something when like you guys have never really dealt with this before, and it seems like you're opening up a big can of worms there. You know, like maybe you should try to help ghosts get into the afterlife instead of trapping them into a, you know, storage unit or whatever. But you know, maybe we're reading into it too much, but. Anyway, I don't know. We've been talking about Ghostbusters for a while. I don't know. Should we wrap it up? What do you think?
Yeah, let's wrap it up.
All right, cool. Well, I ended up giving this 3.5 stars.
Yeah, I think that's about where I'm at. I don't remember if I actually rated it yet, but that's about where I'm at.
Yeah, and I mean, who knows? It might go up over time. It might go down. I don't know. I'll probably see it again, but you know, I think that I think there's a lot to like about it.
Yeah, definitely. I feel like we even kind of skipped over a lot of stuff, like the car chase scene and the, you know, I don't know. There's a lot of fun stuff throughout that really got me excited.
Yeah,
got me going.
One of Jason Reitman's best movies, I think. Anyway, so cool. Please rate, review, and subscribe if you're listening to this and you haven't yet. You know, we do this every week. I don't know what movie we're doing next week. Maybe House of Gucci.
Yeah, I don't know. I forgot to look at what's coming up. And,
yeah, I know House of Gucci comes out this week, and I'm pretty excited about that. But there's a few other options. You know, this is you know, a pretty exciting time right now. I look at the movie list, and it seems like there's a lot of movies that are
still a lot of fun stuff coming out.
Yeah, so you know, keep watching the movies, keep listening to the podcast, and you know, enjoy yourself and have a nice day. All right, Shaun?
Yep.
All right.
Bye.